Trump. Damages. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Donald Trump continues his inexorable march towards the White House, but there are some hurdles along the way, things that test his need for control and that he sees through the distortion field as his narcissism as wholly unmerited. Will Pavia reports in The Times, Donald Trump ordered to pay $83.3 million in damages to E. Jean Carroll. Donald Trump has been ordered to pay the writer E. Jean Carroll $83.3 million for defaming her in statements he made while he was president. I regularly explain to people that when it comes to trying to get the narcissist to do something, you are not geared up to manipulate a narcissist with any guarantee of success. Not only are you not designed to do that, you also need to keep in mind that you're coming up against that almost immovable force, which is the narcissist's need for control. Therefore, whatever you do is going to be viewed through that lens and will be seen as a threat to that need for control. Furthermore, there are wheels within wheels. You don't know what else is going on within the narcissist's fuel matrix, which means that even if you approach the narcissist entirely reasonably, flattering them, even kissing ass, your overtures might be viewed through the lens of being painted black, and you didn't even realize that you'd been painted black, and therefore your overtures fail. This is why no contact is the appropriate response to dealing with the narcissist, save where you need something to come about, you look to the law to achieve it. In this instance, if Ian G. Carroll, as I'm sure she did, wrote to Donald Trump demanding damages, that will offend his need for control, and she'd have been issued a swift foxtrot Oscar through, undoubtedly, his lawyers, rejecting and nullifying that threat to control. Therefore, she turned to legal process, and it would appear that has both locus standi, she has a cause of action, and supporting evidence to make the claim out as against Donald Trump. Therefore, she has used the law to bring about an outcome in relation to a narcissist. Whether you agree with the result or not, that's not relevant for the purpose of this video. The point that's being made is that you can't make the narcissist do what you want, save by application of law, because the law has got teeth. Now, even there are circumstances where the law won't help you. You might not have the evidence. You may not have the appropriate cause of action. But that is the route by which you are able to bring about a result with regard to the narcissist, and has proven the case here. A jury in New York awarded E. Jean Carroll $18.3 million in compensatory damages and $65 million in punitive damages. The verdict, returned after only a few hours on Friday, marked the second time that Trump has been found liable for denying Carroll's allegation that he sexually assaulted her in the changing room of a department store on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan in 1996. Now, on the basis that the allegation is correct and this actually happened, the act of sexual assault shows an absence of boundary recognition, a sense of entitlement, the assertion of control through physical means, an absence of boundary recognition, and an absence of emotional empathy. In a separate case decided last year, a jury awarded Carroll $5 million after finding that Trump did sexually assault Carroll, and that he defamed her when he denied it in October 2022. Denial being the first line of the twin lines of the narcissistic defense. It's important to remember this is not a criminal conviction against Donald Trump. It is a civil judgment. That a civil jury found him liable on the basis that he did sexually assault her, and that his denial defamed her, and that he defamed her again by the comments that he made about her. The issue is, she alleges, rightly or wrongly, that he sexually assaulted her. The evidence has been accepted that this happened, not to a criminal standard, remember, but to a civil standard, i.e. on the balance of probabilities. This finding that the assault did take place, and therefore the fact that Trump has denied it thereafter, has been found to be a libel against, or rather defamatory against this particular lady. Thus, those are threats to control which have been maintained by the application of the law against Donald Trump. In an emailed statement after the latest verdict was reached, Trump wrote, "Absolutely ridiculous. I fully disagree with both verdicts and will be appealing this whole Biden-directed witch hunt focused on me and the Republican Party." Naturally, the verdict threatens his need for control. Thus, in his usual bombastic manner as an upper-lesser type B narcissist, he rejects the verdict and does so with his usually fruity language. Furthermore, his paranoia directs him to believe that this has been orchestrated by the Biden administration. Now, that may not be correct, and it is just his paranoia seizing on it, or it could be correct, and still his paranoia will seize upon it as a method of blame shifting. Remember, the narcissist will tell lies, but also will utilize the truth where it benefits him. It is not a stretch of credibility to suggest that the Biden administration would want to basically cripple Trump's chances of standing in a presidential election against the incumbent president, because there is a risk that Trump will win. And therefore, it follows that if they can find some means of trying to discredit him, they'll use it. Accordingly, the suggestion by Trump that this is politically motivated does have some credibility to it. Of course, what the Biden administration, if they are supporting such attacks on Trump, fail to be picking up on is that all this tends to do is galvanize his supporters all the more. And typically, the allegations against him are used by Trump to point out, see, they're frightened of me, they've got it in for me, they're trying to stop me with these ridiculous allegations. He went on to state, "Our legal system is out of control and being used as a political weapon. They have taken away all First Amendment rights. This is not America." Jurors in the latest case were asked to consider whether Trump had harmed Carol in statements he made from the White House in June 2019. He denied her story, denial, saying the pair had never met and suggesting that she had made it up to sell more copies of a book. Carol's lawyers had asked jurors to consider awarding her $12 million because of the damage these statements did to her reputation as a respected journalist, and another $12 million for the mental anguish and pain she had suffered. They also argued that Trump had not stopped defaming Carol even after a previous jury found that he had assaulted and defamed her. Certain narcissists might, after such a defeat, keep their mouths shut, but not the bombastic, belligerent Mr. Trump. His narcissism keeps repeating, "No, this didn't happen." Bear in mind, even if it were true that it didn't happen, if the legal system is found against him and he's exhausted all avenues of appeal, the most appropriate step would be take your medicine and get on with it. But instead, he rails against it, using the truth, resulting in collateral consequences. If it is not true, and it did happen, but his narcissism causes him to believe that it wasn't true, he keeps issuing this denial, making the situation worse for himself, again, as a consequence of the fact that his narcissism focuses on the moment rather than thinking ahead. Trump continued, even during the course of the trial, they said, to issue these defamatory comments. They urged jurors to impose punitive damages that would be high enough to put a stop to it once and for all. Of course, what they fail to understand, that this is a narcissist, and therefore, because he's focused on the moment, each and every time this instance comes up, his narcissism will move him to deny it. Donald Trump is worth billions of dollars, Roberta Kaplan, Carol's lawyer, said in closing arguments. He said under that oath, millions of dollars to Donald Trump is just a drop in the bucket. The former president stormed out of the courtroom in Manhattan, assertion of control by withdrawal, on Friday, as Carol's lawyers gave their closing remarks. This is typical behaviour of a lesser in a courtroom. They won't always necessarily turn up, and if they do, when a situation threatens their control to such a degree, they will invariably erupt and storm out. The record will reflect that Mr. Trump just rose and walked out of the courtroom, Judge Lewis Kaplan, who is of no relation to Ms. Kaplan, said. "We all have to follow the law," Ms. Kaplan said. Donald Trump, however, acts as if these rules and laws just don't apply to him. And that is an accurate observation. She behaves as if the rules and laws don't apply to him because in his world, his narcissism tells him that they actually do not. Another issue for Donald Trump to deal with and demonstrates a further threat to his control and gives you useful insight as to how an upper lesser type B narcissist responds to it. It also demonstrates the way that he behaves in the courtroom when faced with this threat to control. Trump didn't attend last year's trial, but he came nearly every day to this one and sought to testify in his own defence. In this instance, his narcissism saw that it was appropriate to take the threat head on. The judge, who has presided over both cases, ruled that because of the jury's finding in the other case, the fact that Mr. Trump sexually abused, indeed raped, Ms. Carroll, has been conclusively established and is binding in this case. He would not allow a do-over of the previous trial, the judge said. Invariably, Donald Trump will have approached this second trial as an attempt to undo what had gone before, but the judge wasn't having any of it. Another instance of the attempts to stymie Donald Trump and the reaction from him to addressing those threats to control. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.